My name is Tiffany Crosara. I can hardly really believe that I'm here, but I won't ask you to pinch me, I'll just do it myself. So, what am I doing here? Well, I'm here to speak to you really about the role of belief, actually, because, like I said, I can't really believe that I'm stood here at the moment, and quite often we hear that belief really is the key in what we manifest in our lives. And although I really do believe it is a fundamental key, I don't really believe it's the only one, because if it was, I really wouldn't be here right now tonight. So then what is it really? What is the key to kind of manifesting? And that is what the Transformational Truth of You is about, but it's also about so much more than that. It's about how our karma, our history, actually is the key to manifesting. So quite often we're kind of going along, trying to get to the next thing and the next thing and leaving the past behind, and something's just not gelling, something's just not working. And it's like, well, what is that? What is that thing that's not gelling or not working? And then we can get lost in that and we can be like, what is it? What is it? And then we lose sight of where it is that we're going. So really, in order for me to maybe make a little bit more sense, I probably have to share with you a bit of my story. And my mum sat here tonight, and it's interesting because she's about to hear about how I smashed up her kitchen when I was 16. Because when I was a teenager, as I expect most of you had as well, I had some pretty dark thoughts, some really dismal thoughts, and I really suffered with them. And I've written about that in this book, where I've portrayed myself as Snow White, and she had 7 dwarves of obsession and compulsion and disorder, and other ones that really followed her around. And they kind of got the better of me one day when I was in my mum's kitchen at home, and I started throwing like things about in a bit of a 16-year-old tantrum. And as I did, they just kind of rebounded and kept hitting me back, kept whacking me back. And I was getting angrier and angrier, and it was like harder, whack harder. And then suddenly I heard a message, and it just really clear in my head, so different to the other voices that I had that were dark. This one was different. This one had a different feel to it, and it said, Tiffany, every time you focus on what is wrong in the world, then it just gets worse. So that's it, that's the end of my talk, see you later. But that was really the first moment. That was the first moment where I felt something that was of a higher energy, and I felt like, there is some kind of guiding higher energy here to live for. And then I just kind of went through my days, and I didn't really function in the normal way of go to school, get your grades, go to college, go to university, go and get a job. My path was very much more a meandering, kind of around the houses, I don't know what I'm doing, path. But despite that, I've managed to manifest some pretty amazing things. So what is it then if you don't know what you're doing, and how do you actually manage doing that? You know, and if you don't believe it, how do you actually manage creating that? There's obviously something more. There's obviously something there that's kind of guiding us. So basically what happened, a good story of this, kind of lack of belief thing, was that a few years back, that voice that, still guides me sometimes. It's not like Siri on my iPhone, and I can just ask it a question and it, gives me the answer. But it's still there. And I happened to walk in a shop, and there was a lottery desk, and you hear this thing, like, oh, if you're psychic, then, give me the lottery numbers, right? But I walked in a shop, I wasn't planning to get the lottery, but the lottery desk was jammed right up to the front of the doorway. So it was like, oh, okay, I'll do the lottery. And bing, in came the numbers, 11, 12, 23, 24, 32 and 33, I think it was. And they were crystal in my head again. This voice was crystal. And when it's like that, you know really deep down that it is right. But then you have these things going on inside of you, the lack of belief, the lack of worth. And yeah, that really got the better of me. And I was like, no, they can't be the lottery numbers. And the voice was like, why not? I was like, well, okay, they can't be the lottery numbers because they're symmetrical. So I was trying to find a logical reason as to why they couldn't be the lottery numbers. And they were like, Tiffany, it's the lottery numbers, they can be symmetrical. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to miss my bus and I'm in a rush, and I tell you what, I'll compromise. I'll put 3 on one line and 3 on another line. And that's what I did. I put 3 on one line and 3 on another line, even though when I went up to the till, every cell in my being was screaming, no, no, don't do that, don't do that. And I won 2 tenors instead of 4.5 million. But you know what? Even though all my friends tried to get me into a syndicate at that time, I kept saying to them it wasn't about the 4.5 million. It was about the lesson. And you know, what was that lesson really about? And you could say it's belief, but I guess it's so much more than that. It's about worth as well. Did I actually feel worthy? No. And so I didn't feel worthy, and I wasn't allowing, and I wasn't believing. So it's a pretty deep subject like that. Now I have to go to my lovely notes because I'm losing track. So where are we? So yeah, the failure to trust the lottery, okay? It's just an example. And actually, I do know what a winning ticket feels like, because a couple of weeks later, I actually got a winning ticket, and I said to my husband, it wasn't for the lottery. I didn't even realise again that I was going into a draw. I changed some money at a traveller's check place, and they said, here you go, you've been entered. And they gave me this ticket, and I went up to my husband and I said, this is the winning ticket. I know, I can feel it. I know what it feels like to hold a winning ticket. And I was right. We won £450 instead of 4.5 million. Okay, but still, the lesson there was, you know what it's like when something feels right, and you know what it's like when something feels wrong. But we kind of go through life, don't we, trying to get with the ticket. It's like, I sometimes do the lottery still, and I think, why on earth do I do the lottery? Because I'm stood in front of that desk going, nope, screw that one up, no, no, and everyone's getting frustrated behind me, and I can't get the winning tickets. But I just know that the ones that I'm doing, the numbers I'm doing, are not the right ones. So how do we then change that, really? How do we actually get to that place of, okay, they're the right numbers? And obviously, I don't know yet, because I haven't won the lottery. But I do know that there are some real magical forces at work in this world. And I know that there's these things in life about goal setting and going for your dreams, and it's really true, but we've also got to leave room for the magic to happen. So back in 2000, I came across Mysteries, which some of you will probably know, or most of you will probably know. It's just another bookshop like this down the road. And I thought, I'd really love to work there. It was the first time I'd come across a place like it. 7 psychics on, and it was like, wow. I was like, yeah, I'd really love to work there. So did I just go in there and say, can I have a test reading, please? No. I opened up my own shop instead. See, I do things the hard way around. And I started reading. And somebody who was reading for us in my own shop started reading for Mysteries. So then I thought, okay, I'll go in for a test reading there. Closed down my shop, went in for a test reading at Mysteries, passed. And for 6 weeks, I rang them every week going, okay, it's Tiffany, kind of wondering if I can start. And they'd be like, yeah, not yet, not yet. And after the 6th week, I thought, okay, I'm not going to ring them again, that's it. And I was resolute in my head, that's it, I'm not ringing again. And as soon as I thought, that's it, I'm not ringing again, this voice came back and said to me, you're ringing on Friday. And I was like, what? No, I've just made my mind up. I'm not ringing them again. You're ringing on Friday. And I was like, I'm going nuts. I'm having this conversation with this other part of me that is telling me I'm doing what I've decided 100% I'm not doing. Friday came, and the first email that came into my inbox was from my ex, and he said that he'd met this guy and they were talking about being in contact with their exes, and that his ex was called Tiffany and she worked at Mysteries. And I was like, it's Friday morning, okay, I'm ringing, aren't I? So I rang and they said, oh yes, Tiffany's leaving, would you like to take Tiffany's place? I was like, yeah, okay then. So then I got Tiffany's clients, which was a bonus, and some of them would say to me, yeah, you told me that 6 months ago when I'd read for them, and I'd say, no, I wasn't here 6 months ago. They'd be like, yeah, I thought you looked a bit different. I mean, a bit different. She was like 6 foot tall and blonde, you know, had plastic surgery to become dumpy and brunette, you know, so, but the point is that these things happen that come round like in 7-year increments for me anyway. It'd be interesting for you to think about what it is that happened in your life and how long it took for it to come through. If we go back to when I was having my own shop, we stocked Prediction magazine, and in there was a tarot column, and I used to open it up and go straight to the tarot column and think, oh wow, I'd really love to do this. So did I write into Prediction magazine? No. But 7 years later, one of my friends became friends with the editor of Prediction magazine, and hey presto, I started writing the tarot column. So what I'm saying is there's not always rhyme or reason, and there's not always belief either. I've never really believed that I'd be working at Mysteries before that happened. I never believed that I'd be on TV doing that. So yeah, I mean, that's again a great question, isn't it? In case you didn't hear that, the question was, are the people that go through life with a seemingly thick skin, not really reflecting, are they better off than the sensitive souls that do a lot of reflecting? I guess that in a past life, maybe you were an office worker with a pretty thick skin. Maybe, who knows? Yeah? Or maybe that's another experience, and now you're experiencing this one. So in that sense, maybe you've got that to come still, you know? So in that sense, it's like, are they more advanced? Who knows? I mean, I see like people out there on the street that are far more advanced, you know, than, I mean, I was in a speaking event the other day and they said, you know, whenever there's a speaker in the room, the group actually knows far more than the speaker actually does. So, you know, why am I actually here, stood like this in front of you today? Well, it's just because something happened, you know, and this book came through and it got published. It wasn't really anything to do with me, you know, and it's my role. It's just my role in life, in this lifetime. That's what my role is. So yeah, I don't think that people that are into spiritual development are any less or more really advanced than people that aren't, but it all is down to perception and how we see things, isn't it? But I don't think it's the only thing. So, you know, it's like that saying, if you believe you can or if you believe you can't, you know, you're right. And actually to go through life thinking, I can't, when you're only conscious of this one life, is a really hard way to go through life. So, you know, maybe you can't think, I can, but if you can suspend that I can't and just be in that nothingness and just hold that space of openness, I think that's where the magic can come through. But I think if we're there going, I must believe something that I don't believe, you know, it's actually a block. So I think it's really important just to be like, okay, yeah, well, belief does play a big part of it, but if I don't believe it yet, I don't believe it yet. And let's face it, if we all went through life and everything we believed was going to happen would happen, it'd be really boring, wouldn't it? You know, so there is magic there, and it's like we have to create the space for the magic to happen, and that just means to suspend anything that we don't believe and be open and just see what comes through, really. It's a book that is full of different stories. So some of them are true stories from my life, and some of them are imaginary stories. It's very archetypal. My main use in terms of how I'm used in the world is through archetypes, and I teach through archetypes. So the meditations are very archetypal as well, you know.
As in like tarot type archetypes?
Yeah, so my first book was The Transformational Truth of Tarot, and actually as I wrote that, it was very much more about the transformational truth of you. So, you know, it is the book, it's the mirror of you, isn't it? It's the book of life and the mirror of the soul. So this isn't about tarot, but it uses some of the archetypes, because we all tell stories for a living, and I think that's the way that everything can work better. So the meditations are very archetypal. Yeah. So yeah, I'll just say for the purposes of the camera, okay? So really good question there about how do you turn your lessons into a blessing? And it's a really good question, isn't it? I think, again, it comes down to worth. And it's like, if we beat ourselves up about the lessons, then actually what we're doing is we're just recreating that pattern, we're recreating that lesson. But if we can see it as a story and go, okay, this has happened, I can't change what's happened, I can only change the way that I live with that. And so I only have a choice to live with it in a way that I do service to myself, to the world, to others, or a disservice to ourselves and the world. That's our only choice really in life, isn't it? Are we going to do everything a service or a disservice? But this book, I think, just helps you to go through your own story with the archetypes. So in sharing my own story, you get to look at your own story and put it into archetypes. So you get to storytell, and it becomes more of a movie, and then you're observing more. And because you're observing more, that reaction of beating yourself up goes down. Yeah? Absolutely. You know, after I had that lottery experience, I went to Turkey to do some work, and there I was really quiet. I didn't have hardly any work to do, and I was having a really hard time, and I was like, why did you send me here? Why did you send me here? And they said, well, you know why you're here. And I was like, yes, you gave me lots of signs that I was supposed to be here. This was just after the lottery happened, right? And they said to me, yeah, and if we told you to jump under a bus, would you? And I was like, I just wanted to kind of rip my hair out at that stage, because it's like, you gave me the lottery numbers and I didn't trust, and now I'm trusting completely, and now I'm led up another garden path. And basically the message was, you know, we only want you to do what you want to do. You know, your desire in life is key. That's the key element for unlocking your purpose. And the permission to do that these days is like in this society, you know, so the amount of permission that we need to give ourselves to go, yeah, actually, sod that, I'm going to trust. I'm going to trust that if I follow my path and I do what I want to do, that it's going to happen. But of course, then you've got those other things coming into play: imagination, belief, allowance, worth. So sometimes people go, I do what I did, you know, I started my own business and my company, and I did what I wanted to do, and it flopped, you know. And then they go back to that belief of, I can't do this. But that's why the work on the worth is really, really, really fundamentally important. Yeah. In helping us to develop, or is it more to cut off? And I don't think either are really beneficial. Okay, so somebody once said to me that guilt is the most arrogant emotion in the universe. And I kind of have to agree with it. And you brought up a good thing there about if you feel guilty about past lives as well, because I'm a past life regressionist, and when you do a lot of past life work, you can actually see that it is a thread and it is a story, and that actually there is no judgment. It's all experience. So every soul has to experience everything in order to evolve. So it's experience, yeah? And it's like if we can just move through that experience with at least judgment on ourselves or as least judgment on others as possible, the better. But of course, we're here to develop, we're here to learn. But we make hard work of it, don't we? Kind of make hard work of it. We give ourselves hard times, and it's actually, well, there's something else at work here, you know, and if we can just learn on the worth, and if the guilt is eating up your worth, then, yeah, give yourself permission to let go of the guilt. So every time I felt like, oh, I wanted to do something, that key desire was so strong that it kind of, I guess, went out there, and it just took 7 years to come back round, 7 years to manifest. So this all sounds like the law of attraction, right? Nothing new here. This is kind of what you've heard out there on the circuit for many years since The Secret's come out. So what's different about the transformational truth of you? And I find that really hard to put into words, actually. It's a bit like the Jewish name for God, and it's spelled YHVH. And when you try to pronounce it, you just sigh. So when anybody says, you know, what about your book? What's your book about? I'm like, it's a book of breath. That's what it is. It's a book of breath. But I will try my best to kind of explain that or put the incomprehensible into words now. So as I said a little bit before, it's about your karma. It's about looking back at your story and seeing how not to get lost in that and how not to run away from it, but actually run with it. And you know, with these tickets and all of that, trying to get the ticket side of things in life, sometimes we just don't know how to do that. We just really don't know how to do that. We don't know how to learn from our experience and turn our curses into blessings. So I'm going to do one very little short exercise with you guys, if you're willing to do it, okay? And it's called the IBA exercise, yeah. So what I would like you to do is just think of something that you really wanted to happen, okay? And it didn't happen.
It has to be something that didn't happen.
Something that didn't happen. You really wanted it to, but it didn't. Okay? You get to the fun part after that. Okay. All right. So when you've got that in your mind, the first thing I'd like you to do is rate between 1 and 10 how much you imagined it happening. So 10 being like, ah, yeah, I could really see and feel that with every fibre of my being. Okay? So give that a number between 1 and 10, how much you managed to imagine it at that time. And then B is for belief. So from 1 to 10, 10 being, yeah, I really believed it would happen with every fibre of my being. Give it a number. And then A is for allowance, but allowance is a real subtle thing, yeah? It's almost like more like how worthy did you feel? Because how worthy you felt would be directly connected to how much you were allowing it. So between 1 and 10, you give that a number. 10 being, yeah, I felt really worthy and I was really allowing it. Okay, so you've got that number. So if you just remember those 3 numbers quite clearly. And then you get to the fun part now. You get to imagine something you really wanted to happen that actually happened. Okay. go. So think of something, get something in your mind now that you really wanted to happen, which really happened. And again, we start with I. So how much were you able to imagine that happening between 1 and 10? 10 being I could really see it. And then B is for belief. How much were you believing that it would happen for you between 1 and 10?
So what was the first one again?
Imagine.
How much I imagine?
Yeah. 10 being the optimum. And then B is for belief, 10 being the optimum. And then A, of course, I guess you got that. So again, how worthy did you feel? How much were you allowing it on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay. So you've got those 6 numbers clear? You've got your lottery numbers now? So if this has gone to plan, then probably what you can see on self-reflection is that on the one that didn't happen, usually it's the belief or the allowance, which is actually quite low. So that tells us that we struggle more with belief and allowance, which brings us back to this thing of, is belief actually key? And I think belief is key, but I don't think you have to completely believe that you can do something. I think you just have to suspend the belief that you can't, even if it's just momentarily. So yes, thank you very much, and I hope you found that beneficial and that that's something you can take away with you and actually think about other things in your life and actually be able to kind of work on the belief and the allowance and the worthiness, which is key to everything, isn't it? I remember somebody saying to me, Tiffany, I want to learn psychic development with you. I said, why? Why do you want to learn psychic development? And they said, well, if I'm psychic, I'll make the right decisions. And I said, well, you can be a psychic as Uri Geller, but if you haven't got your self-esteem, you won't make the right decisions. And I think, again, that exercise is showing very key how allowance and belief are actually rooted in worth. And so really the key to everything in life is to really work on our self-love and our ability to feel worthy.